Hey everyone, so this is round 5 and 6 of the tournament that I played. Let me fix the camera here. Oh, that's a little bit better. Round 5 and 6. So this was day 3, and we'll just jump right into it. So this was a crazy game. My opponent was Mathieu. He was maybe 16, 17 years old, and rated 1779. Even though, yes, I'm starting off with D4. It's a London system, and you wouldn't think, to all those people who think the London system is boring, partly you're right, but sometimes I have to beg to differ, and this is one of those games. So, really typical setup so far, kind of King's Indian setup with pawn on D6. He goes for knight B to D7. I saw this move a lot in tournament games. I will point this out that the openings that people play in over the board in these long games are so different than a lot of the games you'll see in like 10-minute rapid games. I saw knight to b to d7 so many times, and I know it's a solid move, but it's something that you just don't often see or don't see as much in faster paced games. Anyhow, so he plays c5, and I go with bishop e2. So the opening here is all basically perfect. Up until now, I think I've played all just book moves, and then he goes for queen a5, which I thought was fine. I didn't really think it was a good move, but I didn't think it was a terrible move either. So I just kind of continued developing here. If he takes, I'm always happy to take back this way. I knew that that was kind of how you're supposed to do it. And then he went for e5. So I was keeping an eye on this e5 move. It's a typical idea in the King's Indian. Usually the rook is behind the pawn, but he went for e5 right away. I can't actually take because he has more attackers than I do defenders. So I decided to just drop back with the bishop, which happened to be the best move there. And then, and here, I can't exactly remember how much time I had spent. I think I was playing relatively quickly. I think it was, anyways, but I was looking at this move, simply the fact that c7 is super weak. There's some potential forks there. And then also, let's see, I think I was eyeing that square or eyeing also the d6 pawn, because that pawn is kind of weak. So I decided to go for knight b5. Looks like the computer actually wants, let's see here. And let me actually, I always forget to do this. I'll switch the view so you guys can see the eval bar. Yeah, the computer just wants a3, I guess. a3 to maybe prepare b4 and just a big queenside expansion. Anywho, I did miss the fact that playing knight to b5 gives my opponent the move knight e4. And as you guys will see, that was kind of important. I should not have let that happen, but the eval bar shows that we're still roughly even. White's a little bit better. I was happy to find this move b4, because if they take, they get forked, so they can't really take that pawn, and it just kind of forces his queen backwards, right? So b4, and then queen goes back to d8. I decide to take, knight takes, and then here. Here is where things get interesting. I saw this, and I just thought, honestly, I just thought, what the hell is my opponent doing? Like, he's sacking a rook for no real I could not tell why. I almost thought that he was just like budging and just maybe upset or something. I don't know. So he doing rook takes e5, bishop takes e5, and here I got up and I think I went to the bathroom, maybe just walked around a little bit, and I came back to this move. I came back to bishop takes h3, and just right away I just thought, okay, there's no way this works. This is got to be bad. He's just being desperate. He's just trying to like be desperate, throw all of his pieces into an attack that doesn't work because he's down material. But actually, I should have been more careful, because although I did take some time to calculate here, I didn't take nearly enough time. And so yeah, when your opponent plays a crazy move like this, it definitely is worth it to take a second and think, okay, hold on, does this work? Really, really think it all through, because had I done that earlier, this game would have been an easy win. But I went bishop f3, which for many reasons is a blunder. Basically, it's just I don't have that knight on f6, so there is kind of a threat here on the king side. There's a lot of black's pieces that are ready to come attack me, and all my pieces are over here. So I went for bishop takes f3. He continued taking, which I saw. I took back, and here, still here, I just thought, I'm fine. And then he played queen h4. And then, of course, after, I don't know, a few seconds, maybe a minute or so, I realized, oh boy, this is really bad. This is really bad. And after a long think, I found the only move that basically keeps me alive, which is f4. I have to shut down that bishop and basically sack a rook. I didn't see this correctly when I was visualizing in my head. I didn't see this correctly. I thought that for a while I was like, wait, no, but what was I thinking here? After like rook takes, I was thinking he could come in with his queen or something, but the rook could just come back and take. So I have to go with the rook. Turns out it's a brilliant move. I don't really know why that is. It's the only move that gets me out of trouble, basically. He takes. I decide at this point to just trade everything down because I thought that I was again convinced that I was still much better. So I decided, okay, I'll just trade everything down. And now what are you going to do with a queen? You're not going to checkmate me with one queen, and I won't let your rook come in. I decided to go queen d4, again, a good move. And he traded, and here I really was shocked. I was like, whoa, what? He's trading down. He thinks he can win this. But I think I was just too self-confident here. I really needed to be realistic and think, okay, my opponent has, let's see, 3, 4, 6 pawns to my 3 pawns. So technically in terms of material, it is even. I thought I was clearly better because I don't know, I just thought I'll trade the rooks off. If he ever goes here, I'm going to bring my king up and try to take over the e-file, trade the rooks off or something. And so the game goes on, and yeah, I just kind of thought, well, you know, the rook has nowhere good to go. I'm going to try to come over here on the e-file, but then I realized because I played this move b5, it also leaves my c-pawn kind of permanently weak, something for black to attack. So I had to get, like, somehow I had to defend this weakness because I cannot let that rook penetrate. It's game over if he does. But then I realized slowly I realized all of these pawns on the king side, if they start rolling, it's really bad. It's gonna be game over for me. Around here, when I realized that he had g5 coming and there was no real way to stop that, I started to think, okay, I think I'm actually losing. And basically here, I was keeping an eye on potential knight sacks, sacking to be able to promote. I was thinking about going knight c6 for some reason, but of course I have to keep this c-pawn protected. And so I went here because I thought, okay, well, if he takes here, then this has to be better for me. If I get that rook check in, and let's say he goes here, I take, I thought, okay, this has to be at least decent for me. I don't want to play passively. I don't want to just sit here defending while my opponent continues to roll his pawns down. Of course, he didn't take, and he played rook e5. And again, I kind of thought, okay, he's playing this well. This is not going to be easy to win or even draw. I went rook e3. Of course, he played g5 first. G5 check was a good move just to keep, get some tempo on those pawns. He plays g4 check, and then I scoot my king up. Of course, I have to be careful here eventually. I think it's afterwards. I had to be careful of getting my rook and my, like here, if I had gone there, I'd lose on the spot. Anyhow, we get here, and I start to get a little bit desperate. I wanted to bring my knight here because, again, I'm always looking at if the rook cannot get there in time, I'm looking at sacking the knight because if takes, I would be able to promote. He trades the rooks off, and here is where I'm thinking, okay, this is game over. The best I have here is to go knight takes e5 because I just don't see those 3 pawns are enough to win. He doesn't need to do anything. You just push those 3 pawns, and unless I get the knight in, which I actually did, I thought, yeah, it's game over unless maybe I can get my knight in. But by that time he's going to go over here and eat all my pawns on the queen side. And so, by the way, my opponent is his name is Mathieu. He was 1779, so it was a I don't know, maybe 16, 17-year-old kid, not really entirely sure. And it was kind of interesting. I was way down on the clock here. I'm talking like I'm playing with no more than 5 minutes, and just keeping the 30-second increment going. But I'm kind of just chill. I don't know. I figured I'm either losing this or maybe I can get a draw. But one thing I'm happy with is that I've been pretty calm. I managed to keep my heart rate down and just breathe, and I don't get too worked up. But also, I think playing a lot of bullet and blitz helps that. Feeling confident in time scrambles. My opponent was like borderline, like hyperventilating. He was really, really nervous, and understandably so, because he is completely winning here. But if you make one wrong move, as you guys will see, it's not so easy, and he did. So King E3. What really shocked me here was, let's see here, was him going to King D4. Well, no, I guess he can't really go down here because the knight's there. But at some point here, he pushes his pawns, and I'm calculating all of this to see, is there a forced like checkmate that black has? And this is where King D4 here is where I thought, what is he doing? Like, he can't let me. He's got to stay by these pawns and push them. There's no way he can go start collecting these pawns. I'm going to gobble these pawns on the king side and bring my knight over, and it's going to be a draw. So around here, I started to see, wait a second, this is a draw. I can draw this. And my opponent, just kind of gave away a clear victory. And we analyzed it afterwards with a couple other kids as well. And they were just saying how you got to push. Let's see. So if we're here, the computer wants king f5. Yeah. Knight g5. And then it wants, it's my move, h2 check. Yeah. So here, like, this is already a draw, actually. He already gave it away. I'm surprised. I thought there was some move, like maybe f3, but then the knight comes in. Anywho, really complicated, and I managed to pull off a draw, which was okay, but I also kind of thought to myself, I should have won this if I had just taken a little bit more time to calculate that bishop takes h3. Because if we go all the way back here, guys, like, white's clearly winning. The attack does not work. The sacrifice doesn't work. We were analyzing this with him and I guess some of his friends from the club, and they're just like, dude, you got to stop. You got to stop doing this if it doesn't work. And yes, this clearly does not work. Although it's interesting, bishop takes e5 is not, it's actually a mistake. It does kind of, maybe the computer thinks this is slightly dangerous because it wants me to go bishop f3, get rid of that knight. Because then without that knight, there's nothing. There really isn't anything. So, but yeah, here, rook c1 is already a mistake. And then bishop takes is actually good. It's just that I needed to play f4 right away. f4 right away. And this is even, actually. This is even. But my mistake from the beginning is actually taking the knight. And then again, taking the rook. If I had played bishop f3 here, white's better. But with these kinds of games, even if you have a slight advantage, guys, honestly, the fact that people take so long to find the best move, really what I've found is that a slight advantage here almost means nothing. You have to be so accurate in the way that you convert in these over-the-board games against, these are pretty strong opponents. They're not, like, 17 to 1800 FIDE is not an absolute beginner, that's for sure. They're pretty sharp. So yeah, even a small advantage doesn't mean that you won the game. It truly, really doesn't. You have to be able to convert in a way that is just so different, because on 10-minute like rapid games, even 15-minute games, you can try to flag. You can say, hey, I have the advantage. I just need to stay alive until my opponent flags. You cannot do that. You need to play to win. You need to outplay your opponent 100% of the time. That 30-second increment, that is enough. Like, if someone is not, like, if someone has played any bit of blitz or bullet in their life, then they're going to be able to, convert probably with 30-second increments every move. You just cannot play thinking, I'll just play this move anyways, because it's, I'm going to try to stay ahead in the clock. Anyhow, so we managed to draw. I was pretty happy with that. And let's take a look at game 2 now. Okay, so this is round 6 later that day. And my opponent was a little, I guess maybe 12. I would say maximum like 12 years old, but more like maybe 10 to 11. I'm not really sure. Dylan, and he was a 1789, so another strong opponent. Let me tell you guys, it can hurt playing against like 10-year-old kids that are kicking the crap out of you. It really is a different experience than compared to when you're playing those rapid games, blitz, online chess. Like, these kids are sharp. It's incredible. So anyways, I am playing with the black pieces, and this game was also very interesting because my opponent played into a line of the Scandinavian that I have memorized pretty deep into it. And so it felt good to have a huge advantage on the clock because I literally just didn't have to think about the first like 12 moves, I think. Meanwhile, he was. But again, you can't rely too heavily on opening theory. Of course, you still really have to play precise. And this game was, This game was extremely frustrating because in an opening where I was 100% sure that black was better and that I was playing all the top moves up until like the 12th move, even that is not enough. You have to play extremely accurately and continue to hold that advantage. And so as you guys will see, this is a certain line of the Scandinavian. You ended up trading off the queens, force the king to take and lose the castling rights. You take here on e4, and basically there's just tons of threats. There's actually one line that goes to a really cool checkmate. And all of this, I was like, okay, I know this is the top move. They bring the knight out, I castle, and then sometimes you end up taking here. And then here he played a3, and this was the beginning of me having to just think, and I didn't know exactly. Yeah, this is where the theory stops. The computer marks it as a mistake. I thought it obviously was. It serves a purpose, and these mistakes and inaccuracies and so on and so forth by the computer, they are only as much of a mistake as insofar as you are able to capitalize on it and take advantage of it. If you don't, it's not a mistake. It stops me from making this knight b4 move, which is the continuation. And here I thought, and I just didn't find the right move. I kind of confused this line with other lines where you do take the knight, and this is actually a miss because if I had studied this line a little bit deeper, which I never really thought I had to, I would know that bishop c5 here is the move. It's the best move. This bishop is actually extremely annoying, and it holds down the position even if the king is stuck in this pin. So I needed to find bishop c5, and I didn't. And I ended up taking here. I decided to go bishop b7 because I thought, well, I was looking at this move knight a5 to hop into that juicy like b3 square, but I just thought, I need to develop first. I can always bring my bishop on this nice diagonal. The rook can't defend that pawn. It could be pretty complicated for white to defend. They went bishop e2, and yeah, it's just like, even if you play a perfect opening, you got to continue doing it. And what to say? Like, my opponent played, to me, it felt like perfectly. It was like there was nothing that I could do. And keep in mind, guys, I am a pawn down. I'm one pawn down. So if my opponent just trades everything down to an endgame, I'm worse. And even though if we go back to this position, black is better. There's no question. Black is better. This is an easier position to play as black. The computer also agrees. Maybe not like way, way better, but I wouldn't like suggest playing into this line if you were white. And fast forward. So yeah, this move like bishop d1, I just thought, man, like how is he finding these moves? All of my, my ideas of knight b3, exploiting that pin and hitting the rook can't really move anywhere good. Like this looks so bad. And yet it works somehow white's surviving. And I just didn't find the right moves. And here I decided to start doubling up. He got b4, which is kind of annoying because it does force my knight to a, backwards. He's got these pawns rolling. And then when I saw him play king b2, I realized, okay, great. He's already activating his king and trying to trade down into an endgame. And, if I do that, I'm just simply worse. Like here, I saw that and I thought, okay, I'm somehow worse. Yeah, I'm just worse. His king is more active. He's got an extra pawn. And whatever advantage I had with that pin is now completely gone. I went knight g4 to try to, attack a couple of these pawns. If he trades the bishop, I'm happy. Again, backwards knight move protects everything, and there was nothing I saw to take advantage of this. The computer wants knight back to f6, but I'm just sitting here like, if I trade everything down, then we're just trading down to an endgame where white has an extra pawn. This knight looks really stupid, and yet I have nothing to attack. Like, because of this backwards knight move, I have nothing to attack. And so, yeah, let's see. Knight f6 here. And then it wants rook takes, which makes sense. Bishop takes. But, like, this just looks terrible. This looks clearly losing for black. And so the game goes on. I went knight e5. I'm trying to just keep some pieces on the board. But, yeah, nothing really is, like, either way, he's able to force some trades. I can't make compromises to my position, right? Like I can't avoid trades to the point where my position is awful. So I kind of just thought I had to trade there, and yep, he's one pawn up, and it's, +2.5 for white. So this game, and he just played like perfectly. In fact, right here. So I was thinking, okay, he's going to maybe sneak around here with this knight to attack the b7 pawn. In that case, I'll just drop my bishop back and defend, and there's not really anything you can do with that knight. It'll look just kind of stupid here. And then I see this, and I realize, oh my god, did he calculate all this, or did I miss this? Maybe he didn't even want to go after that pawn on b7. He had already seen that knight here, and then here. There is no way for me to stop losing. Either I get forked or I lose a pawn, and there's no way to stop it. And I just thought, this is crazy. I'm getting the crap kicked out of me by like a 10-year-old kid, even though I played an opening that I knew obviously better than he did. But, he took the time and found the best moves and then converted. So yeah, at this point in the tournament, this game goes on a little bit. I took, and then, I could have resigned, obviously, but here I resigned. And yeah, at this point in the tournament, I was starting to get a little bit discouraged. Yeah, I said this in the last video, but the big takeaway here was that you really have to play over the board to get better at over the board. You have to practice visualizing and just everything over the board. Online chess a lot of it does transfer over. But if you've never played over the board in your life, and let's say, honestly, guys, let's say you're like 2,300 online, but you've only ever played online, probably it's gonna be a sweaty game just against a 1,700 or 1,800 FIDE player. They will, that's what I have found so far. And then on the flip side, if you're playing a lot of over the board, then I think like if I had been playing a lot of over the board the last year or two or more, I think I would have played much better. I'm not particularly proud of a lot of these games. Some of them I am, but I think I would have played much better. But the fact is, I play mostly online. And I mean, as you guys will see in some of the next games, some of the moves that I made, some of the mistakes and blunders were absolutely ridiculous. Like I would never make that mistake, I hope, in online chess. And here I'm spending 10, 15 minutes and I make this move where I'm like, what am I doing? But it's because it's different. I'm not seeing the board the same way as I'm seeing on, chess.com, on Google Chrome in front of on this computer screen. So anyways, it continues. I will post the recaps for the following rounds. Hope you guys have a good night, and I'll see you in the next video.